Late 2010, I want to say. We were just on the streets, sleeping wherever we could, and I was selling drugs. We just kept doing that day in, day out. We had blankets wrapped around us, coats, boots, hats, gloves, the whole nine. It was freezing. I cried a lot. I got frustrated, but I also didn't talk to my children. It was a struggle.
I was homeless at 16. Became a pretty heavy heroin addict at that time. Ended up going to prison for 2 years. I was no longer a person, I was just a husk. I think that's the biggest thing about being a homeless addict is a lot of the times we want to change, we just don't know how to do it.
I struggled with meth addiction for a long time. When I turned 18, I was homeless, I was in the streets, I was committing crimes to support my addiction. My self-esteem was so low that I didn't even aspire to meet new people. I ended up with a 10-year DOC sentence.
We so comfortably want to look at people and think it will never happen to us. Well, you know, I hope it never happens to anyone that I care about, but it's happened to hundreds and hundreds of people that I really care about.
I think the biggest failure of our homeless policy as a country and on the ground in communities is we treat people experiencing homelessness as them, the homeless. They're separate. We can only solve this problem when we look at people as valuable and contributing members of the community. Bridge House in name and in mission and programming has evolved a lot throughout its history.
My name is Steve Tombleson, and I was the facilities manager for what was then called START. The actual program started in '95, and it was started to have a day center for the homeless here, so that they had a place to go during the day.
At that time, it was very small, grassroots kind of thing. And really at that point, it was like getting in out of the cold and getting a little food and getting some coffee. So it really started with some basic stuff like bus tokens and money for IDs was about the limit of the services at that time.
Then they moved into a carriage house. And a carriage house is a garage. It's where you put your carriage 100 years ago. And that's where the carriage house was born and became Boulder's Day Shelter.
I always saw us as kind of the scrappy little organization that could do anything, you know? And the places that were supposed to do certain things, we stepped up and took up their slack.
And then at some point, the dinner program that I was running, Community Table, merged with Carriage House. We became one nonprofit, and we were focused primarily on feeding people for dinners. So low-income folks, seniors, and people experiencing homelessness. We were open to anyone.
We also started tackling the more complicated situations with people's IDs, literacy, addiction, mental health, had outreach services so that people could come in, get their basic needs met. We could build a relationship with them over time and then engage them in these services that hopefully could move people out of, you know, the trap of homelessness.
We didn't know where to go. My husband Googled library. We found it. We found out it didn't open till noon. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. It was freezing out here. And this guy was walking through here, and he could tell we were new. And he told us about the carriage house, and he said, when you get off the bus in the morning, just follow the crowd. And then they walked us to this little building. It's a day shelter. They serve breakfast, they serve lunch, you can get showers. You check in at the front desk. Chad was the greeter at the time. He was rude as hell. I'm gonna just put that out there.
Lots of old memories in here. It was pretty neat, little tiny place with a bunch of folks that really cared for you, and they made some really good food there. We fed probably over 100 people twice a day out of this little tiny building. There's lots of articles about the food, and because all the food was made with love and care, and we did a lot of good work there.
So they hired me 7 months after we were here. So then I became the greeter. On a cold, cold day, it could be anywhere from 125 to 150 people in this building. The capacity of this building is 25. We could have got shut down every day.
The Carriage House had achieved a lot as far as, filling that need around day services. But the board at the time and the director at the time, Joy at Redstone, really wanted to add more, in terms of programming to help people exit homelessness. So we started the Ready to Work program in early 2012 officially.
We run a three-legged stool: housing, support, and work. We start with work. We think work's the most important. It gives people something to do. It gives them a purpose. The Ready to Work team today is working here in Louisville at the History Museum. We're pulling some weeds. These guys have been out here for the last several days. It's starting to look really, really nice out here. Now we've got the Boulder facility. We do open space, Boulder Housing Partners, several different other large contracts for Boulder, and we do the same thing out of our other building in Aurora.
So the biggest thing I think that Ready to Work teaches you is how to actually be responsible and accountable for your behavior. The work first portion of it is building that self-efficacy through actually getting your hands dirty, actually doing something with yourself. That's what works about Ready to Work.
Ready to Work started off as only 5 people. Then after the success of the first year, we expanded it to 15 trainees at a time in the Ready to Work program. But that kind of hit a wall. We couldn't go any further because people were still homeless. They had nowhere to sleep at night, even though they were in our program working for us.
One day, we were talking and Isabel said, I'm gonna get a building and we're gonna expand Ready to Work. All of a sudden, this is 3 years in.
This is from 2015, March 10th. This is the article from when we broke ground on the Ready to Work building. It's a great honor. I kept this because it was a really big accomplishment for myself, coming from the streets to being involved, from taking a startup program from basically doing free work to being able to buy a multi-million-dollar building within a few years. So Isabel really knew what she was doing, and quite the visionary.
We partnered with BOHO, Boulder Outreach for Homeless Overflow, to do more around programming, including meals and including day space at a larger location. And then in 2017, Bridge House and BOHO merged to basically create a new model called Path to Home, which was a 24/7 sheltering model.
Then we started finding out, hey, we have the means to get people out of homelessness in a very sustainable way.
With the momentum of Ready to Work, we were able to launch Community Table Kitchen to provide more job training, and then also expand our meal program through the community table dinners, and then also providing food for other hungry populations.
First and foremost, we're a job training program. The real gift here in the kitchen is teaching the homeless to feed other homeless. And we've managed to do that since day one. Some of the folks never cooked at all. So the job training piece is always first. Everything here is done from scratch. We break everything down, we prep everything comes in its raw state. Soon they'll get to a point where they're actually producing meals on their own. And then we take them to the events and we get them out there and they're passing hors d'oeuvres and working the functions. And it's just good exposure. It exposes them to that side of the business, because once they finish here, if they decide they want to pursue that, then we can take it to the next level and find them full-time work in this industry.
I was gangbanging, selling drugs, just committing a bunch of just random crimes for no reason. When I was out in the streets and stuff like that, living that crazy life, I didn't have a place that I can go to that offered me shelter, being able to work. If I needed to get my medication, they help with literally all of those things. The biggest difference in my life, in general, is that I love myself. I feel like I have a reason to be here. I don't know, this job builds me up. It makes me just feel like a better person. It's the best feeling in the world.
I think one of the strengths of how we've set up the program is starting with an internship program. And so that goes typically from 2 to 4 weeks. And that's where you really want to see is this going to work? Is this person at the right point in their life. After they get brought into the program, once there's a space open, they're actually going out to work, then we start up employment classes with them. So you've got housing, you've got employment, and then you need the support services. And it's those little interactions actually that make it feel like a home, make it feel like you're on the supportive journey that you're on for the year, and remind you that people care.
So it starts giving people that work history, but it also provides all the practical things, like a place to sleep so that you can show up to work on time, and case management so that you can address all the other sort of things that get wrecked along the way of the path of homelessness.
Once I learned the rules and the policies and the procedures and knew that the Bridge House was a safe place and genuinely there to help you, all those negative emotions, thoughts, everything just fell off of me.
I knew that I was ready, and I think they saw it as well. I don't know, something clicked within me. I went to a meeting every day, sometimes 2 meetings a day. I did everything the program told me to do. I surrendered.
When they walk across that stage in graduation, that payoff is beyond anything that we can put into words. Now they're self-sufficient in their own job, in their own housing, and they don't need to come back to the soup kitchen again. They don't need to go to the homeless shelter at night anymore. That's what society wants, is to see people get back and recreate their lives.
Graduation rate to us means that they're full-time employed, and with that employment they could sustain housing. Our graduation rate is 3 out of 4 graduates, so 75 roughly percentage of graduates. Oddly, that has been about the same number since the first year that we've opened. Then we follow them for another 12 months post-graduation, and that rate is about between 82 and 85% success rate, meaning that for the next 12 months they're staying employed and housed.
The way that we've set up this program, that 75% of people coming into the program are successfully graduating, we know we're onto something really good. Other cities started coming knocking, saying, looks like you've got a good program in place. We'd like to get one of those in our city as well.
Within the first 2.5 months of being operational, the city manager from Aurora came out and asked to have a tour, and then asked us to put a location in Aurora.
I see Ready to Work going national. I really do. That's kind of our hope for the future. I know we're already kind of working on things. We're growing as we speak. We have a new building opening up in Inglewood.
Over 25 years of time, where Bridge House has evolved is to the point that we are right now, with really thriving with this Ready to Work employment program. That's sort of the culmination of 25 years of working in this field, is that we've been able to find our niche. And it isn't the total solution to the homeless issue, but it's a very good niche that we can be very effective in getting people out of that cycle of homelessness.
I'm in the middle right now of getting my bachelor's in counseling with an emphasis on chemical dependency and addiction. Once I fully get that, I mean, there's a high ceiling for me. You know, I want to be a director one day at Ready to Work.
I always used to pray that if I was given one more chance to change my life and be the mother and the daughter and the sister and the wife that I was supposed to be, that I would never mess it up. And I've never looked back.